You're always going to be scared of something until you understand it. If you're passionate and if you care, you can make a difference. Sustainability can truly become a competitive advantage.
Don't be intimidated by it. It's not as difficult as it might seem. And this industry, I think, sits in this sort of unique intersection between massive global visibility and massive global operational scale.
Take the cruise that's doing something to better the environment.
Taking opportunities to build positive stories and highlight positive tales is something that's really, really important for the sector.
If the ocean was sitting up here, what would it say? Every great travel journey begins with a question. Where to next? And how do we protect what makes it beautiful? Welcome to the Conscious Check-In, the podcast where sustainable hospitality, unforgettable travel, and bold conservation stories collide. I'm your host, Amy Wald, and this is your Conscious Check-In. I'm so honored to be part of this panel, and I want to introduce our panelists. We have Steve Jones, Director of Fundraising and Operations for ORCA. We have Bill Pearson, co-founder of Ocean Bottle. We have Alex Schultz, CEO and co-founder of 4Ocean, and Tony Rossi, CSO of TerraCycle. So let's dive in. Steve, if you would, give us a little background on ORCA and what you do for them.
So ORCA are a whale and dolphin conservation NGO. We're based in the UK, but we work all over the world, particularly with the cruise industry, to study and protect whales and dolphins in the places where they live and the important habitats they go. So we do crew training, we have enrichment and education programs on board, we do citizen science monitoring, and we work all around the world, all 5 oceans, everywhere from Antarctica to the Arctic to help protect these amazing animals.
Well, good morning, everyone. Ocean Bottle is a consumer-backed brand that we really created to enable individuals to make a global impact on protecting the ocean. We make impactful and meticulously designed water bottles. For every product we sell in fund collection, equivalent to 1,000 bottles of weight, which is 25 pounds of plastic. We do that by investing in flagship projects and coastal communities around the world with lots of partner organizations. And today we fund a collection of just over 55 billion pounds of plastic, which I think means we're neck and neck with 4Ocean, which is super exciting. We've done a lot of partners, really thanks to our community, a lot of partnerships, sports industries. We're relatively new to the cruise industry, but we're making some exciting partnerships here. Excited to do it all.
It's a pleasure to meet you guys. Very excited to be here. So my name's Alex Schultz. I'm the co-founder and CPO here at 4Ocean. So we are an ocean cleanup company. So we employ captains and crews around the world to clean plastic and trash out of the ocean. We operate out of Florida, Bali, and Java, Indonesia. And what we do is we partner with brands to help them implement sustainability programs and really drive an impact through ocean conservation and cleaning the ocean. So we have about 200 full-time captains and crew, and we have removed over 50 million pounds of trash in the ocean. So it's something I'm very excited to be here to talk about this industry and see what we can do to help out the sustainability perspective and really help them the needle for us at you. So excited to be here, guys. Thank you.
And my name's Tony Rossi. I lead our business development team for TerraCycle. TerraCycle is a for-profit business that is dedicated to collecting and recycling products and packaging that normally cannot be recycled. We've been doing that for 25 years in over 20 countries around the world. And we've actually been working in the cruise industry for almost 10 years, collecting and recycling items such as coffee capsules, personal protective equipment, which could be gloves, masks, anything of that sort. And I would say most interesting is the work that you've been doing to collect and recycle cigarette butts that are generated from cruise ships.
Steve, I want to start with you because you mentioned some words that are scary to some of us: data, science, conservation. How do we really make those digestible and create, a way for cruise lines, not only back of the house and their crew, but for guests to get involved in this and really change the mindset rather than ocean as a commodity, and more of it as, a living system?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And I think one of the things we say first always, you're always going to be scared of something until you understand it. So as an organization, our work is based fundamentally on citizen science. This is the idea that people from all different backgrounds can conduct and take part in scientific research. So I give myself as an example. I'd never seen a whale or a dolphin before I started working at ORCA. And now I travel around the world talking to the shipping industry about what they could do to protect these animals. So if you're passionate and if you care, you can make a difference. And that's where we come in. It's just about finding the right way of telling that story and the right way of engaging. And that doesn't just apply to members of the public. You talked about crew, you talked about guests on board. They are also just ordinary people as well. Some of them care a lot and know a lot. Some of them don't know, but want to find out more. And I think through education, engagement, through having meaningful discussions and learning what's important to the guests, learning what's important to the crew, you'd be amazed at how many of them jump on board. And we train thousands of people a year who work and live on ships to collect data for us. And it turns their mind around about animals that they've been watching for their entire careers to find, just a little bit about them and why it's so important to keep them safe.
Okay, Will, let's move to you. So you have a water bottle, which does amazing things like eliminate plastic, but what does that look like on a ship that isn't just you give somebody a replacement for a plastic water bottle? How does that elevate the guest experience? What are you seeing in some of your partnerships?
Yeah, I think 21st century sustainability doesn't just have to be a cost line. It's not that tick box exercise. Things really have evolved over these past few years. And I think in many cases, actually, it can represent huge opportunity in terms of return on investment, whether that's across guest experience, loyalty, marketing, brand, and every single touch point across your business. One thing as well, I think that's changed is that we've seen now a huge array of innovators, solutions, way beyond just our field on this panel today. They have done the R&D, they de-risk their technologies and they're ready to plug in and kind of scale. So I think that's probably a bit of the landscape. But in terms of how we work, we really try and we really are sort of a plug-and-play solution. So our products are perfectly fit for retail. We deliver very healthy retail margins. We're not afraid to shy away from the commercial aspect of this industry. So I think that's a clear kind of win-win commercial opportunity where you're driving margin, but also you're providing a product that's valuable for people. They can use it on board. They can buy one for their friends, your family as a take-home souvenir, and then they're also creating impact on the ocean. So I think that's one piece is retail, which is applicable to us. And then actually we do a lot of guest gifting partnerships. So this is where our product actually really acts as a sort of all-in-one, guest experience, loyalty, advertising, billboard, because basically every brand puts their brand on the product, and our products come with a 10-year warranty. So they're really walking around with basically that brand. And we've seen that we have a big partnership with HX Expeditions. They give every single guest on board a fully customized ocean model. They fund a collection of over 1 million kilos of plastics, over 100 million plastic bottles in weight. And the customers absolutely love them. We have messages from customers going back saying, I lost my HX bottle. How do I buy another one? Which is great. So hopefully we're going to see more of that. And I think, there's a role for us as the solutions to present that ROI case back. And the earlier the star sample that innovator is, the harder it is can be for them to prove that. So then, how can you work with, how can you collaborate together to build that economic case? But it's definitely there, and I think it's growing. So yeah.
If I'm a cruise line and I'm thinking about 4Ocean as a solution, or hopefully not their first step, but a partnership, what does that look like in practice? How do you make that entry point really simple and easy?
Sure, it's a great question. And so one of the core values that we really lean into is it's progress, not perfection. Sustainability as a topic can be very intimidating. You don't know where to start. You don't understand the expense and really just the budget that is behind it. And what we try to do is make it easy and accessible for brands. You know, our belief and vision is to try and get more brands to incorporate sustainability into their operations across the board. I mean, there's so many amazing options that we're talking about right here on the stage, and getting more brands to just look at it as something that can help to deliver results for the business. We like to talk about it a lot, where sustainability can truly become a competitive advantage. And I think that's something that we're trying to connect with our brands when it comes to the guest experience, the sustainability storytelling, giving you an opportunity to really connect with your guests on a way to talk about the impact that you're making and the decisions that you are making with your business to leverage business as a force for good. That is something that we really believe across the board, and making that accessible and simple for other businesses to engage with. And so we offer a few different packages and programs, but really it's just the ability to implement cleaning the ocean and the sustainability program across the board. And so, you know, take this trade show, for example. We are the sustainability partner, and we've removed 40,000 pounds with everybody here at the event. We, for the water refill stations, every single refill is helping to fund ocean cleanup, as well as the lanyards that everybody here is wearing. Those are all offset, and we remove the same amount of plastic from the ocean. So right now, not even realizing, everybody has already taken part in that impact to clean the ocean and be a part of that impact across the board. So I think it's super important to be able to connect with your guests on the choices that you're making from a sustainability perspective, and really just talk about what we can be doing as an industry to really move the needle and start to drive change when it comes to the amount of plastic in the ocean, and what we as consumers can do, right? So like, for example, Will's bottle on the ship is an amazing opportunity to cut down and single-use plastic. And that's something that's going to continue to drive that impact with consumers across the board. So we just want to make it accessible for people to just really help to move that needle.
Okay, Tony. So these guys are going out there and picking up plastic, right? That's littered all over the beach, and other items, of course. But you're not only doing that, but you're also helping divert things that cannot be recycled, which is a huge problem depending on where you are in the world. Even in North America, depending on the different municipalities, they only take certain, items. So when you are talking to a partner, a potential partner, what are some of, the common mistakes that you see brands making? Or when you're suggesting your solution, do you advise them to start with one ship, start with one department? What does that look like?
It's a great question. And I hate going last because you guys said so many good things and my mind is going to spin a year. And now I have to change gears. But I've been doing this for over 15 years. We've been working with partners like Lavazza, British American Tobacco for well over a decade. And these are companies just building on the value piece. These are companies that care about their bottom line. While sustainability is so important to them, they wouldn't continue to partner with TerraCycle, and we're not a free partnership by any stretch of the imagination, if we weren't able to deliver a return on their investment. So I just wanted to build on that piece of storytelling, return on investment value. For me, within sustainability, if there isn't a sustainable financial model as well, you're never going to have the impact that you're going to have for the environments. But getting back to your questioning, the biggest mistake that I've seen is perfection over progress. People who want to start going from 0 to 100 and say, we've been doing nothing, and now we want to do everything. Here is all of the waste that we generate. Help me with it. That is very, very difficult in my opinion. And starting with 1 or 2 items that you want to recycle, and I'm talking about products and packaging that aren't easily recyclable, right? Cardboard boxes, aluminum cans. That's very easy to do. Your CFO is going to love doing that because not only is it going to improve your sustainability report, you're going to make money off of it because people will pay you for that. When we're talking about recycling waste with TerraCycle, we're talking about recycling products that have negative value, therefore it costs more money to recycle them than it's worth. So starting small sometimes is very important. And some of our largest partnerships around the world may have started with cigarette butts or coffee capsules. And now we're helping them be a zero waste and landfill facility. Or when you're talking about the cruise industry specifically, we started with cigarette butts because frankly, it was free for them to participate. We had a partner paying the bill. So it was just effort that we were asking for. But as you grow, as the people become aware of all of the waste that is being generated, then you start to build on that. So I think starting small is really important, and starting with something that's going to be impactful, right? I think another reason we started with cigarette butts on cruise ships is because of the novelty of it. Most people don't even know that cigarette butts are made from plastic, right? The filter is plastic. It's not a cellulosic material. So it gets people interested, and then they start to think, what else can I do? When coming and making it specific to the cruise industry, one of the biggest challenges that we have is cruises on the water. I can't send FedEx or UPS out to the middle of the ocean to pick up waste to bring it back to us. So one of the key partnerships that we've actually had is with the ports as well, because the ports become a crucial player in this environment. They're able to aggregate, to generate pickup spots for us to come and take that waste back. So working within your supply chain and understanding who the stakeholders are so that they can play a role as well does help make a big difference.
Brought up so many good points. But one that I think is really important is that misnomer that sustainability is more expensive is just not true anymore. There is a lot of innovation and on parity pricing. Now, does it take a little bit of time to research those products? Yes, but that's just not the case. So I just don't think it's relevant. And when you talk about destinations, I've heard a lot of, panels this week talk about what is the perception from the destination for a lot of these cruise ships. It's two sides of the coin. They're bringing economic value, but at the same time, are they viewing you in a way that is positive? So I'd love to ask all of you, what is your take on, these kind of partnerships and how that drives that positive perception?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. The shipping industry is big. There are 60, 70,000 ships in the world and cruises, about 300 of them. But your industry carries the sins of the rest of the sector because you have that B2C visibility that most of the wider shipping industry doesn't have. So when you're looking at issues like over tourism, when you're looking at things like vessel strike of whales, when you're looking at the pollution that ships can cause, you guys are kind of carrying the can for everything. So taking opportunities to build positive stories and highlight positive tales is something that's really, really important for the sector. The flip side of that is that means that the accountability for the sector is much higher. And so understanding that stakeholder map, we talked about crew and guests, but there's local government, there's regulatory bodies, there are courts, there are suppliers. Having a real good picture of what your sustainability story looks like for all of those people is really important as well. And actually, where the industry makes up, parts of the world where the industry makes up a larger than normal percentage of shipping traffic, thinking about places like Alaska, Antarctica, some of these destinations where cruise is really big, the industry has to take responsibility to do the right things in those areas, because otherwise you can't complain about the fact that you get blamed for the wider shipping industry's ills as well. And so it's not easy, but I think actually looking at sustainability as a holistic story with all of the different stakeholders in mind, not just your customers who are going to spend more money and who are going to be more interested in your brand if you are more sustainable. That's what all research has shown everyone. That if you can actually look at all of those other stakeholders, the value you can build across that map is huge. And it doesn't necessarily have to then just reflect a bottom line. It's going beyond compliance and actually going on to making a positive impact.
Yeah, I think Alex put it quite well as well. You said that I think sustainability could be a motivation, and I definitely think that is true. You can look at it on an individual basis, your company, your cruise company, and how you can use that to your benefit. I mean, the reality is now, in terms of top prospects, cruise companies, I think it's over 70% now are looking for those more sustainable operators and alternatives. So the demand is definitely there. But I think there's also another aspect, which is the sort of all ships rise with the tide. And actually, there is now reputational opportunity for the whole industry on the whole. I'm going to be honest, it probably doesn't what it does, your reputation. And I think the reality is there is so much opportunity for innovation, for decarbonization, to actually ocean philanthropy. Yeah. My dream is to actually see the potential of this industry to go from really, reducing the harm that we're creating through every voyage and every trip down towards zero. Actually, how we would go a step beyond that, say looking to 2040, to every trip raising a positive impact on the environment. You're not becoming a key part of the guest experience to offer it. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity, and yeah, for the industry on the whole.
Sure, and just real quick on that note, and we really like to talk about sustainability as your competitive advantage. And we were just out in the Keys yesterday with a partner. They were out at cleanup, and we were asking them questions about our partnership and really what sustainability has been able to do for them. So they are a brand that sells a vitamin and supplement, and they just explained that they have been trying to track down certain retailers and to get to new doors and expand and grow their business for years. And just through the Flourish partnership in the last 3 months, there's been 3 huge retailers that they've been able to land by switching the conversation. They were explaining that, at a conference, at a trade show, they typically talk about pricing and they talk about distribution. And they're like, the last 4 trade shows, we haven't even talked about pricing. We're purely talking about the impact that's translating to our partners. And so the cruise industry can really take advantage of this because you can help drive the incremental revenue with your clients and guests. At the end of the day, sustainability is becoming mandatory. It's not optional. And consumers are voting with their dollar. And so if you're able to translate that down to the customer experience and the customer level, when they're looking at what type of vendor that they want to choose, they want to have an impact. They don't want to overexploit the different resources and be able to go on these trips and say, am I having a negative impact? They want to understand that, hey, we are enjoying is having a good time while making a positive impact on the planet. And so that's why you're seeing such a rise in sustainable tourism. And it's something that you can leverage to really grow your business and to continue to grow your impact. And you really can do well by doing good. So that's something that we really like to push.
Agreed. I'll try to add on. I think sustainability is definitely a competitive advantage, but I'll be very frank. I think it's harder today than it ever was. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, dipping your toe into sustainability, you were likely the only one doing that. Now the bar is up here, right? When I look at our coffee capsule recycling partners, if you're a coffee capsule manufacturer and you don't have a recycling program for your coffee capsule, you're losing, right? You're either getting sued, you're losing customers. So recycling has almost become the standard that you need to achieve. And I think now what's really exciting is how do we go beyond that? And with a lot of our partners at TerraCycle, we're looking at integrating their recycled content back into their supply chain. And for me, that's really important because when you look at your sustainability report and you're talking about the positive environmental impact that you have, recycling makes a huge difference. Using recycled content to your supply chain may see even bigger benefits. And as we're sitting here in the midst of a war where oil prices are super high, it's also a valuable resource. And we work mainly with plastics. A lot of the negative environmental impact that happens with packaging happens at the extraction level. We take so much effort to pull oil out of the ground, refine it, ship it over here, convert it into a format, use that format to make a plastic fork, and then it goes back into the ground, into a landfill immediately, right? So I think using recycled materials is also really exciting. And for us, we've been working with partners for a really long time. We make a completely closed loop shoe with ASICS, where it's a shoe made from their shoe. The Olympics last year, not last year, this year, but talking about the Paris Olympics 2 years ago, all of the podiums at that Olympics were made by Procter & Gamble from waste that we collected in France leading up to the Olympics. So even starting to think about what is it in my supply chain that I can make from recycled content is I think, an opportunity to engage with your guests and be more. If you're in a cruise and you have a slide, right? We make that slide from recycled material, right? And are there branding and storytelling opportunities around that? Absolutely.
Okay, so we talked a lot about consumer facing. Let's talk about the crew. Where does the crew come into this? How important is it to bring them into this story? I think that gets underplayed so much. I mean, how many crew are on a ship? Imagine if you could improve morale just a little bit more by introducing something that they feel really good about. Steve, take it away.
Absolutely. And I would say the crew are a critical part of this, as they are the entire operation. The industry can't run without an amazing crew, and all of you operators have amazing crew, but they need to be a part of this story as well. I say to people, the people who live and work at sea are the most passionate about protecting it. That's their home. That's what they rely on. That's what your businesses rely on. And so when it comes to actually implementation of the things that you might be putting in place shoreside, bringing the crew on that journey with you is essential. We do a lot of work on vessel strike mitigation, working with brands to help them understand the risk of collisions with whales. And one of the reasons we've been very successful with it over the last 25 years is because we don't just go to the team shoreside, we work with the crew. We know what it's like to be on a ship and spend time on the bridge. We spend time with those seafarers and we understand the challenge they face. And just by doing that, and just by tweaking the story, going back to story, to make it relevant to their lives and something they can relate to, the engagement goes through the roof. There's more adherence with voluntary measures. There's more knowledge. There's more understanding. And that's that opportunity to go on to what Will was saying about, then you can start to ask them to do things that make a net positive contribution, ask them to collect sightings data to feed into the UN ICES treaty. You can ask them to, work with you to understand and improve your training. You can ask for more. So because they understand it, because they're engaged. So I'd say crew is such an integral part of making this possible. And we're lucky that we've trained tens of thousands of crew over the last 25 years, and they really do respond so well. And it's just a great way to make an impact.
We can't do anything without the crew. They're very integral in what we do. What I would say, in taking learnings from the cruise industry, but also the work that we do with retailers, offices, hotels on the mainland, I think incentivizing and educating crew is really important, because if I am turning over rooms, my job is to turn over X amount of rooms in X amount of time. It's not to make sure that I sort waste properly. So giving them buffer education and training is crucial. And also we see incentivizing them on doing the correct behavior as it relates to recycling and sustainability is also very important. Right? Like, how do we give them potentially a bonus or something to reward their effort? That can't be overlooked either.
I think, the concept around taking care of the crew, connecting that impact, everybody wants to feel good and empowered around what they do as a career. Everybody wants to feel that they're leaving a legacy. And so what we try to do, connecting with our team, our partners, and all of our different members of their team, is to really just connect and have that impact resonate, right? So when I'm talking to our teams about the program that we're implementing, the focus that they have on sustainability and how they're prioritizing, I really like to give the background of, the example of the gentleman who is going through a tour of NASA, right? The president goes by and sees the gentleman mopping the floors. And he says, "Sir, what are you doing?" He says, "Well, Mr. President, I'm helping put a man on the moon." And I think that's an example of something that it doesn't matter what your role is in the organization. If you are helping to drive that bigger picture, you are helping to drive that impact in terms of sustainability, cleaning the ocean, recycling necessary content, doing anything that's going to help drive that forward across the board. So I think that's one thing, is trying to connect and let that experience resonate with the crew. Because at the end of the day, you want people fired up. You want them to be passionate about what they're doing and be proud of who they're working for and what you are building together. And that's why you try and make sure that it can translate across the entire organization, not just the marketing team and not just the ESG team.
And sorry, Will, and then here to close it out with a bang. I mean, this is a hard job. I've worked on ships. Hospitality is hard. But then you go on a contract for 6, 9, sometimes even a year. Anything you can do to improve morale and make them feel better is just, to me, just an obvious, element that you're going to improve your culture throughout your organization, which is a direct translation to guest experience, right? I mean, the power of one. I saw so many guests come on the ships and say they came on because of one housekeeper, one waiter, one person on that ship. So imagine if you could improve that. Sorry, Will.
And I was just going to add, I think, as well, career critical. I think when we were coming into this industry, it probably wasn't something that we realized. We were very focused on the guest experience and everything surrounding that. And we now work at 6 different cruise brands, and in basically all of those partnerships, our crew also receive a branded ocean bottle. And that's great because ultimately this is a hospitality industry, and it's all about human connection, storytelling and all of that. So the crew actually having products, understanding the story, being part of that mission, I think like Alex says, means that they then engage the guests with that as well. And so we've seen us being really awesome and really successful.
Thank you. Okay, so we want to have a little bit of time for some questions. So I'm gonna wrap up with 2 quick questions, little rapid fire. All right, so mega ships, they're coming out on a regular basis, and I sometimes am scared of them, but the other time I think maybe that's a positive thing when it comes to panelists and solutions like this. So, giant nations, hurt us or help us?
I think that's a really difficult question to answer, because ultimately ships of all different sizes all have different impacts. So the way I would think about it is not how big is the ship, but it's how early in the chain was sustainability considered when that ship's being built, right? So new technology, new innovations, obviously new fuels coming down the line. Building ships from day one with sustainability in mind means that a huge mega ship that has 6,000 people on board can be more sustainable than a tiny little 30-person ship per person, just because of that innovation. So I would say that they can absolutely help, because they have lots of people on board. That means lots of opportunity to scale impact. But sustainability needs to be one of the first things on the drawing board when you're sitting down and thinking, how do we want to fit out our ship? What fuels do we want it to use? What propulsion? What system to use that? So I know that's not really an answer, but this spec is really comfortable to sell. So
I actually do not know the answer to this. This is definitely above my pay grade. I would imagine that, a bigger ship could actually be more efficient for the passenger, but then obviously the impact, that many people land. I don't know. So what do you guys think?
It at first when you hear mega ship, right, and these huge items, I gotta tell you, I'm terrified, because you have to understand some level of sustainability that could come from that. But I think it all depends on the effort that's put into really prioritizing sustainability and how that could make an impact. So you're right. If it comes and dusts off 6, 7, 10,000 people, what if that 6, 7, 10,000 people were actually having positive impact? What if sustainable tourism became a priority? What if we could leave a positive impact to basically leave the place better than we found it? That would be the goal. And if we can see the advancements across the board, from fuel to food waste to absolutely everything, to waste as a whole, I think it's something that could be beneficial, but it just comes down to it depends, right?
I agree. Very quickly, I would also say that in my experience, it's so much easier to be preventative than try to deal with the problem once you've already done it. And very rarely do the people who have to deal with sustainability or deal with garbage get a seat at the table early on in the planet biz. So if you are building bigger ships, invite the people who are going to be responsible to have a voice at the table early on.
I can't impress enough that the ocean, and I think we all realize this, but it is a living system. The cruise industry is one of the few industries that actively extracts from it and also depends on it equally. So I think it's important to think about, if the ocean was sitting up here, what would it say? What would it have to say about our conversation?
I normally only speak for Wales, so I've obviously been promoted now speaking for the entire ocean. And I would say they would say, bloody talk to each other, work together. Ultimately, there are so many stakeholders in ocean conservation. If you think about the space we work in with Wales, you have governments, researchers, you have industry, you have ports, you have crew, you have members of the public. And there's so few examples of all of those stakeholders having constructive and productive dialogue. And I think that that's changing. We're lucky that we've been at the center of that in many cases because we are credible with all those audiences. But more conversation and dialogue. I think that's what the ocean wants to go and sort themselves out and then come back to us with a solution, please. Thank you.
And I think it would say, oh, you've got a big opportunity to help us out here. Never really yet. This industry, talking 35 million passengers on vacation on the ocean every single year. And this industry, I think, sits in this sort of unique intersection between passive global visibility and massive global operational scale. Just to give it an idea of the impact would be possible. I mean, if every cruise line funded plastic connection for every passenger, whether that was an ocean bottle or for ocean products, we can actually fund collection of 5 times the Great Pacific Garbage Patch every single year. So, like, the scale of this industry can deliver real impact for the ocean. And I think, the key part is that the ROI that also drives back for this industry and return, reputation and all the other things that we've discussed. So I think there's a lot of opportunity.
I think it goes back to it would really look at progress, not perfection, and just simply starting, looking at it and getting sustainability a seat at the table, like you said from the beginning, and being able to give it that opportunity to drive real impact. Don't be intimidated by it. It's not as difficult as it might seem. And you can start very small. There's so many amazing options of things up on stage that you could use to implement in your operations. And just like me, you could pull pound for every night stayed, or for turning down the room service, or for offsetting the key cards. There's just small things that you can do on a daily basis, which is don't be intimidated. Start from the beginning and really let sustainability have a seat at the table.
I really like that the ocean had a British actor. That's how I envisioned that, folks. For me, my ocean speaks to the consumer, and the ocean says, vote with your dollars, right? Take the cruise that's doing something to better the environment.
For Ocean, Ocean Bottle, ORCA, TerraCycle, shameless plug for The Conscious Check-In, my podcast, where we have sustainable conversations with all kinds of travel. Thank you so much. Go do good in the world. We eat it. That was your Conscious Check-In. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and let us know who you'd love to hear from next. Until next time, travel deeper and stay inspired.